But we are privy to some of the issues that they're going to be discussing in terms of housekeeping. The chair of the party, John Mbadi, said that they are looking at the party after the elections. But right now we'll just speak with the Secretary General, who's going to give us some of the details of the NEC that is beginning today and will end tomorrow. But thank you so much, Mr. Sifuna. Thank you so much for joining us on NTV. Just give us some details of some of the reports that have come out of your NEC that is still ongoing.
Yeah, we are here to deliberate on the task force report that was looking into the performance of a party over the past 2 or 3 electoral cycles. As you are aware, the performance of a party in terms of a number of people that we have managed to put into the Houses of Parliament has been declining. Some have also said that the support of the party has been waning in various areas. We are here as the leadership of a party to have an honest discussion, to interrogate the feedback that we received, because that team went around the country speaking to members of a party, and they are telling us that there are certain things that we have been doing wrong, and we would like to assure the members of a party that we are listening to them, because at the end of the day we want to do right by them. So that is why we are here. We want to interrogate that report, and at the end of this exercise we are going to adopt certain recommendations that have come from our grassroots support, so that we are able to say we are doing right by the supporters of a party.
As the most dominant opposition party in the country, we do have a problem with your party nominations. And I think maybe this is some of the things that are rising, that there are some people who feel like the party is not transparent as far as your nominations are concerned. What do you say about that?
Oh, I didn't know that also NTV has a problem with our nominations, but it is one of the issues that has been highlighted. We have had a lot of challenges during the nomination process and during the grassroots election. There are various causes and reasons as to why we have not had nominations that are satisfactory to our supporters. There's a lot of issues to do with our capacity at the National Secretariat, our capacity as a party. There are other things that are even candidate cost, because we have to be honest that some of our candidates do not want us to have proper election nominations for reasons that are best known to them. We also have various issues around that nominations, issues of corruption that have been mentioned in the report, and we are here to have a candid discussion with ourselves and propose measures and mechanisms that can ensure that in future we have proper nominations, including addressing our issues of our capacity. We keep asking the government to release the money that is due to us from the political parties fund, because money is a big factor in terms of the capacity to be able to conduct credible elections. Actually,
it's like you've read my mind, because I wanted to ask you, once you've given these monies that you have been asking from the register of political parties, will you share it with the other affiliates in the bigger NASA umbrella, or it's just a purely ODM affair?
I think we need to clarify one thing, that under the NASA agreement, the only money that was subject to sharing was money that we received from the register of political parties as a result of the votes we received for the presidential candidate. Now, it is common knowledge that the presidential election that we participated in August was annulled by the Supreme Court. Yes. And the registrar of political parties is saying she will not give any money to the ODM for the results from the August 8th election. She will use the results of the 26th, which we did not participate in. So I want to make it very clear that we are not receiving any money on account of the presidential election in the 2017 election, and that therefore there is no money that is due for sharing amongst the NASA coalition parties.
Thank you so much. That is the ODM Secretary General, Edwin Sifuna, saying that this is still an ongoing process. They're still meeting. They're expected to be here for the next 2 days. And tomorrow, on Friday, that is, they will be briefing the media on the report that they are really perusing, as that now the party leader is in the sessions. But we do understand he will not be available to speak with the press. But as at and when he will do, we will be here to listen to the party leader, who is Raila Odinga, and also brief you to that end. Ken.
Thanks, Bridget Singana, with your live report from Nakuru. Hopefully something comes out of that process by the Orange Democratic Movement. All right, let's come back to the capital now and talk about education, where the Commission for University Education has engaged universities with uncredited programs to have them approved, since students had already enrolled for those courses. The issue came up at a meeting that brought together the Education Parliamentary Committee and the Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha, and Sharon Baranga was in attendance, still is in Parliament and now joins us live. Sharon, good afternoon and good to see you. We know this is a huge issue, especially to students, just noting that a few months ago, there were several courses that were delisted or deregistered, and there was worry that students have actually registered for this, but now there's some reprieve, because we understand that since students had registered, they will not be deregistered. What brought up these sentiments, especially in Parliament? Was it that complained, or it was just general discussion?
Good afternoon to you, Ken. We are coming to you live from the County Hall, and for close to 3 hours, the Education Cabinet Secretary and officials from the ministry were answering to questions that were being posed to them by the Parliamentary Education Committee. And one of the issues that really stood out was the courses that some of the students were undertaking in some universities that were not approved by the Commission for University Education. And with that regards, after this question was asked, the Education Cabinet Secretary said that the Commission for University Education engaged these universities that had courses that were not approved, and up to now, before there were about 1,800 courses that were not approved, but up to now about 1,700 have been approved, and 105 courses are yet to be approved. And this, they said, it's mainly because the universities are yet to communicate with the Commission for University Education with regards to these 105 courses, which I believe soon or in future they are going to be approved, because up to as of now they cannot be removed because already students are enrolled and they are taking these courses in universities. Other than that, we had also a number of issues that came up, such as the use of indigenous languages in preschool for instruction. We also had the distribution of competency-based curriculum books to schools, and some of the members felt that there was an excess in some schools, but the Education Cabinet Secretary said that their plan was to have each pupil have their own book. That is a ratio of 1:1. There are also a number of issues such as poor infrastructure in some schools, and heads of schools that hold on to certificates of students who had not cleared school fees. And according to the Ministry of Education, in 2014, they issued a circular where all school heads were advised not to hold on to these certificates. Back to you, Ken.
All right, Sharon Baranga, thank you very much. And indeed, that's something to look out for, especially the fact that it concerns students and the issues were raised, but at least there's light at the end of the tunnel. The courses are already in session, will not be cancelled, they'll have to go. But the question at the far end is, what happens if you undertake those courses that are not marketable? Thanks, Sharon. And Sharon Baranga will have a report at the end of the day touching on that. All right, and we understand that right now the Directorate of Public Prosecution is appearing before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly. Let's take you live and listen in.
4.9%. In 2016, we had a 19% conviction rate. In 2017, we had 24.4%. In 2018, we had 32%. And in 2019, so far, we have about 17.6%, and this is until March. If we go to page 17, Honourable Chair, the amounts involved in the cases processed, the registered cases in court from ODPP's perspective amount to almost 82 billion shillings. And this involves amounts from very low bribery amounts to as high as 29 billion. For example, the Imperial Bank case and Kenya shillings 6 billion on the one on the Anglo leasing cases. Concluded cases are about 10 billion, but we still have to work, and we are working with the EACC on seeing how we can recover these monies. But in essence, about 10 billion is intended to be recovered. And on the ongoing cases, we have about 72 billion that we hope to recover. Okay. Honourable Chair, I've also highlighted high impact cases. Since 2014, 582 corruption and economic crime cases were registered. 283 cases are ongoing. This is the high impact. What we can call some big fishes, with some cases involving senior government officials as outlined below. And you can see cases involving cabinet ministers is about 6%, senior county officials is about 49%, and CEO and directors of other government officials is 26.8%. Honorable Chair, you will note that despite the fact that the counties just came up around 2010, they have the bulk so far, 49%. And this is a trend that is worrying, and I think it informs us where to look at and target more. Part 3, Honorable Chair, is to do the question of the DCI cases that we've gotten. On the onset, I'll say that the DCI before 2018 had very little corruption cases, and very little was emanating from them, and most of them were charged under the penal code and other legislations. However, due to the emerging trends of committing economic crimes, the DPP has adopted the strategy to charge under ASECA due to the following reasons on cases that are brought by the DCI. The restrictive nature of the penal code with regard to the elements of the offense. The asset recovery, forfeiture and restitution is restrictive under the penal code and much easier under ASECA. The punishment regime under ASECA is commensurate to the impact of the offenses. And we have favorable ruling, the fact that we can actually charge under the ASECA, even with the DCI, and it's not only the EACC. And we see the DCI as complementing the EACC. Major cases of corruption and economic crime submitted by DCI from 2014 to March 2018. We have registered 63 cases since that time. We've had 2 convictions, 1 acquittal, 3 consolidated, and cases pending in court are 58. Honorable Chair, we don't have much data on the DCI, but we are working towards having as much data as the EACC, and I think we will have administrative measures within ODPP to require them also to submit their statistics to us. I will go to the next question, Honorable Chair, on enhancing working relationship, and that is part 4 of my report. So enhancing working relationship between ODPP, DCI and EACC, and also the judiciary and other investigative agencies. We have first the MAT agency, and we also have the NCAJ, where we've tried to work through jointly together. The ODPP, as one of the agencies working in the criminal justice system, it is essential that we continuously strive to enhance working relationship to improve delivery of service. A vast majority of files dealing with economic crimes are submitted to the ODPP by DCI and EACC, but also increasingly by KRA. And we've worked towards ensuring that there is collaboration, cooperation and coordination. In a bid to enhance the efforts in the fight against corruption, the government, of course, established the MAT. I think tomorrow we are also meeting again under the MAT auspicious with JLAC. And what we've done, Honorable Chair, we are also pursuing through NCAJ to create more synergy between the executive and the judiciary under the criminal justice system. We have set up task teams and prosecution guided in investigations, and we've also, with the EACC, for example, we have fortnightly reviews and strategic meetings that are done. We started that with the CEO. We, as he said, we have joint trainings, and we are working on capacity building. We are even approaching donor communities jointly to help. We are working on sensitization programs and interagency workshops, and we are also intended to sit down on legal developments, but legal development that is led by research and trends that we have through data collection.
Right, as you can see, that's an ongoing session with the DPP answering questions. So we'll take a break from it, but definitely we'll have a story at the end of the day touching on all elements that were spoken to in that session. Let's move on and talk about other issues. Now, Kenya will need to tame its ballooning public wage bill in order to avail more resources for development and delivery of services. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich says the wage bill, which was estimated at 730 billion shillings in the last financial year consumes about 50% of the country's total revenues, way above the target of 35%. Rotich said this during the launch of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission's strategic plan.
The government is committed to achieving higher and sustainable growth in order to, on a permanent basis, eliminate poverty. The management of public sector wage bill is key to our macroeconomic stability, competitiveness of our economy, and also the ability of the government to provide quality services to its citizenry. A large wage bill relative to government revenues, if not accompanied by compression of other government expenditures, will contribute to a large fiscal deficit. This in turn raises our debt to GDP levels to a sustainable path, and hence goes against the principle of a public finance as enshrined in our constitution.
And of course, Rotich assured SRC that its 2019-2020 budget allocation will remain intact. Now, early in the month, the Parliamentary Budget and Appropriation Committee threatened to slash SRC's budget for the financial year starting July by 104.6 million shillings. The fight between the legislators on one end and SRC started after the Commission sought a court order blocking the members of Parliament from earning 250,000 shillings monthly house allowance.
I know Parliament almost touched part of your resource allocation, but let me assure you, as a commission, independent commission, we will constantly engage Parliament to ensure that the resources that have been budgeted for you to do the work will continue to be availed to you.
All right, our next story is good news to the counties. Governors will soon be able to borrow funds without the influence of the national government if a proposal by the Commission on Revenue Allocation to make the counties financially autonomous or independent sails through. Now, CRA says that the initiative is aimed at bridging the gap of poor financing that has been witnessed in the recent past and which has crippled operations in most counties. Now, these were part of the deliberations during the launch of an initiative aimed at ranking the credit worthiness of counties in line with that new proposal.
There is the window where counties can go into the capital markets and go for issue bonds or even access leasing products through the capital market. But all this is predicated on their credibility in the way they manage their finances and in the way they can demonstrate that to the signal to the market that when they access these instruments, then they're in a position to pay. This is where we are coming from in this particular initiative.
Right, that indeed is good news for the governors and the counties. They can now get money without going to the national government. All right, and yesterday, the Starehe Member of Parliament, Charles Njagua, alias Jagua, was arrested, and the MP Njagua will spend another night in police custody until Friday, when the court will rule on the prosecution's request to have him detained for 14 days to gather more evidence. In court, he was in court over xenophobic remarks he made on Saturday. The prosecution argued that Njagua's remarks could lead to attack of foreigners in the country and Kenyans living in other countries. Defense lawyers, however, asked the court to grant him bond and terms to comply with, as the prosecution had not provided sufficient evidence to hold him. State lawyer Duncan Ondimu argues that if the respondent is released, there is likelihood that the case will be interfered with. The prosecution further states that Jaguar's remarks have been or have caused diplomatic challenges, placing Kenya's relations abroad at risk. Away from that, events of the road crash leading to the death of former Nyeri Governor Wahome Gakuru have been presented by his driver Samuel Kinyanjui. Now, Kinyanjui was driving that car which hit a guardrail on the 7th of November 2017 in Mackenzie area. Today marks the second day of the inquest in which the prosecution seeks to establish the cause of that accident. Our reporter Melita Oletenges has been following this and now joins us with a live report. Melita, good afternoon and good to see you from Nyeri. Of course, there's a lot of things that are coming out of this, but yesterday was the first day, today is the second hearing, and we still expect this to proceed for several days. But give us a gist of what was discussed today at that inquest.
Yes, indeed. As you said, Ken, we are coming to you from the Nyeri Law Courts, and today quite critical information coming out of the critical questions asked by the Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions, that is Peter Mairanyi, here at the Nyeri Law Courts, where the driver was driving the Mercedes-Benz, which was involved in that accident on the November 7th, that is in 2017, in Mackenzie area along the Nairobi-Nyeri highway, where the late Nyeri Governor Wahome Gakuru died in that grisly road accident. Now today, quite interesting details coming from this. The Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions asking why the vehicle that was involved in that accident did not stop immediately after the impact, after it hit a guardrail. Now, interesting details, as I'm saying, Ken, is that the driver of the vehicle, Samuel, is saying that after hitting the guardrail, the impact, of course, caused the airbags to come out, that is supposed to cushion someone when an accident happens. And instead of hitting the brakes, as there were no skid marks on the road, the driver says his foot remained stuck on the accelerator, thus following through the guardrail for 68 meters, and that is what caused the very bad injuries inflicted on the late Dr. Wahome Gakuru. Now, aside from that, also we've had the driver saying that he has been threatened by some members of the community here in Nyeri. Remember, on Tuesday this week, we had the governor's personal assistant also testifying here before the Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions, and he said that before his death, the governor was a troubled person, as he was not in good terms with some of his family members, and also he was not in good terms with some of his political allies who he had failed to appoint to different political positions in the county government. So, Ken, these are just some of the details that are coming out of this inquest, and these are some of the leads that the prosecution will be looking to follow to establish the cause of the horrific accident. Ken.
Right. Thank you very much, Melita Oletenges, with the details from that inquest from the Nyeri Law Courts. Moving on, Deputy President William Ruto has launched a committee mandated with dealing with female genital mutilation. The DP stated that the Anti-FGM Board and the United Nations Population Board have come together to eradicate FGM and early child marriages.
FGM reduces and undermines the esteem of our girls and women, undermines their health and progress, and encourages inequality in our society. And by all means, we must stand shoulder to shoulder to make sure that we deal firmly, decisively with this challenge to our society.
Well, across the borders now, and we begin in the U.S., where Democratic candidates in the 2020 U.S. presidential election have kicked off the first of their party's debates by answering questions on the economy and rising U.S. wealth inequality. Liberal firebrand Elizabeth Warren, who has been gaining momentum in the polls, took center stage at the heated forum in Florida. She's proposing structural changes to address the widening wealth gap in America. The Massachusetts senator was one of the only two contenders to say she supports replacing private medical insurance with government. Now, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker was the only candidate who did not raise his hand when asked whether he would sign back to the 2015 Iran nuclear deal as it was originally negotiated under the Obama administration. Now, 10 other Democrats in the crowded field, including Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, will battle on Thursday night. Karvelis is indeed in studio with me. Sean.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A very good afternoon to you. Now it's a do-or-die clash for neighbours and bitter rivals Kenya and Tanzania tonight, as both teams seek 3 points after losing their opening matches at the Africa Cup of Nations. And as Brian Atual reports from Cairo, Egypt, both coaches are seeking the right formula following disappointing performances in the tournament so far.
After the 2-0 humbling by Algeria, Harambee Stars coach Sebastian Minye has promised an overhaul in his starting lineup against Taifa Stars of Tanzania.
In this kind of competition, it's important to try to win the second one and to exist and to continue to dream, to expect something for the qualification.
We have to look at the positives. We have 3 points to play for, so we are going to give it our best, because I believe tomorrow's results is going to shape or define our progress in this competition.
Minye admitted it will be a tough outing as he seeks to improve on his attacking after Stars only recorded a shot on target against Algeria. His headache has been reduced by the recovery of assistant captain Musa Mohamed.
We were strong defensively, of course, but offensively we were a little shy against Algeria. But I think it will not be the same opponent, with all the respect I have for Tanzania. It will be a physical game also.
Meanwhile, Tanzania, who will also be gunning for a first win in this year's tournament, will be hoping to put behind reports of team discomfort over allowances.
Kenya, they are not invited in this tournament. They play to qualify to be here. So I think they also deserve to be respected. And both teams were coming from East Africa, and it's not going to be easy. But the good thing is that for the very first time in the AFCON, we're having 4 teams representing East Africa. I think it shows that the East African football is growing, and we hope in the nearest future it will continue to grow and it will continue to strengthen the region when it comes to the game.
The new mode of availing tickets through fan ID process has been an issue, with Kenyan fans among those affected, as a large number of Kenyan fans who travelled from Nairobi missed the opener against Algeria. An East African derby and the Battle of the Stars. It's all to play for or nothing at all in the do-or-die match between Kenya and Tanzania, as both teams seek to finish among the 4 best losers and a chance to qualify to the next round. Reporting from Cairo, my name is Brian Otual.
So it is a massive match tonight. It is at 11 o'clock, the cross-border derby between Kenya and Tanzania. Who's going to win tonight? Of course, we all have an opinion, and we went out onto the streets to find out.
Kiweza piga Tanzania, hiyo ni kama tutakuwa tumeshinda AFCON. Sasa haitakuwa na shida, hata Senegal wakitupiga haina shida. So unaona tukipiga Tanzania next match.
Anyway, tunaweza shinda game ya Tanzania, but bahati tu. Lakini game ya Senegal nayo hapana. So sisi tunamaliza na Tanzania na turudi nyumbani. Yeah.
I don't see any other team that Harambee Stars can defeat. Bearing in mind that Tanzanians also they were defeated, so they are coming that with that kind of a mind that Kenya will be an easy team to play with. So most likely Kenya and Tanzania will go for a draw.
It will be all to play for when Kenya face Tanzania in their next game on Thursday. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
Now, after missing Senegal's opening Africa Cup of Nations match against Tanzania, Liverpool forward Sadio Mane is expected to make his long-awaited first appearance of this year's tournament when they face Algeria in Group C at 8 p.m. Mane is taking part in the event for the 3rd time and sat out.
2019 Copa America is here from 14th June to 7th July.
All right, that's the latest sports news. Don't forget Sportsline on 96.3 Nation FM from 3 o'clock with myself. Back to you, Ken.
All right, Sean, thank you very much. I know you want to believe on Harambee Stars. I really want to believe on Harambee Stars too, but they're playing Tanzania. Noting that Tanzania has never beaten Harambee Stars out of Tanzania. Where is your heart, Sean?
You know, it's really interesting that this match is happening with all the furor surrounding the last 24 hours. Of course, politically, it's a hot potato right now. And of course, now we got the sports, which is going to make things even more heated tonight. I'm going to be patriotic and make sure that, of course, Harambee Stars have to win tonight to keep that record going. Of course, Harambee Stars having never lost to Tanzania outside of Tanzania. This should be very interesting. I'm going to go for Harambee Stars.
All right, Sean. My heart is also with the Harambee Stars. Let's wish them well. Let's play the game tonight and we'll be watching. Have a good afternoon and thanks for watching. My name is Ken Mijungu.